morning and welcome to our show. You know, me and some fishing buddies of mine were talking just the other day, and we kind of wondered what the very first fishermen did to catch fish. Yeah, we knew that they didn't have the good lures and the great rod and reels and all that kind of stuff, or boats as far as that's concerned. They probably tried to catch them with their hands first. Then they decided to use that spear that they've been killing those tigers and elephants with. And pretty soon probably became pretty adept at, well, what we call now gigging fish with a spear. They still do that in some respects up in Missouri and other places. They have a gigging season on fish, rough fish called a sucker. And they usually do it on the rivers in and around Van Buren and Donovan and right in there, the current river is what we're talking about. We were invited up there by A.D. Luster. His son Brian and some of his friends were going to show us how to gig a fish. Yeah, that's what we're going to do today on the show. So join us. We mentioned at the top of the show today we're going to try to find out how to gig a fish. Now, if that sounds easy, wrong. It's definitely not easy. You've got to develop a talent over a long time. As a matter of fact, Ronnie, one of the guys that's going with us today on this kind of adventure, has been gigging fish since he was 8 years old, and that was, as he mentioned, about 30 years ago. So it took that long, and he is pretty good. Now we didn't really, as you'll see, we didn't really get a great night for gigging fish because we did gig some fish, but we were run off early because of the threatening weather, lightning and thundering, and you don't need to be on a river when you do that kind of stuff. But we're going to start at the beginning right now.
First of all, a blast from my past. Growing up in the flat cotton fields in and around Portageville, Missouri, one of the most awesome places I visited as a youngster was Big Spring. Now, that's near Van Buren, as you probably know, in the hills with plenty of good, cold water. Well, I had to return to that spot as an old adult and relive some of the nice moments. And now let's proceed to the Current River, up from Big Spring. Now, this will be just a sightseeing tour, my first time on that part of the river. River. My guides, Brian Luster and Ronnie Penders. The beauty of the Current River along here is very much like the Spring, 11 Point, or Strawberry in many ways. First of all, we were using a jet pump boat, and they do catch some smallmouth on this river.
What are you using? Gets it. What size you get out of this part?
3 weeks Sunday down late in the morning.
Oh man, yeah, that's a nice one.
Ronnie talked about that fish they gig, the sucker.
Well, the sucker's classified as a rough fish, but I think it has a little better taste than the buffalo or the carp or the drum.
Well, a sucker is in the, was it in the family of the carp or the?
I think it's in the sucker family.
Just a plain old sucker family. Yeah. I'll be darned. All right, what will you, if we're cruising down the river tonight with the big lights on, what will you look for? I mean, what kind of motion or anything, or you just know where they are or what?
You just see them. I've learned to look out at the edge of the light as far as I can see, and your eyes will pick up a fish between you and the edge of the light. Sometimes I get in the habit of trying to look straight down in front of the boat, and you're missing everything that's going on out around you.
Somebody said that you could gig one now way deep gigging, not shallow digging, deep gigging.
Yeah, when the fish get scared, they'll head to the real deep waters, like 20 feet deep or so, and I've got to where I can kill them out of there fairly easy.
Tell me something, is this, do you do any other kind of fishing, or is this your favorite kind?
This is my favorite kind. I used to do quite a bit of smallmouth fishing. Seems seems like I don't have time anymore.
Thought it was a little white circle and the spring's coming up. Had the same
That's the
circle.
spring right there, huh?
Yeah.
It's
called
percolating through there, isn't
It's
it?
called Bass Rock. They jump off of the top up there.
Oh, they do jump off?
That cedar tree right there on the left, where you're pointing,
Yeah.
the rock on it. There you go.
No, I'm not going to jump off. If they're going to wait on me, they'll starve to death. We picked up a hitchhiker during our trip. That young lady belongs to Ronnie. Her name is Hannah. Brian rigs up a gig to show me, knowing that you can't gig fish in the daylight, but he just wants to let me know how it goes. Watch out, a snake will show up soon. Afraid? Well, close your eyes. Later that evening, after some great ribs cooked by A.D. Luster, we're here waiting on the darkness down by the river. I talked to Ronnie and Casey.
Below there, there's a pretty rough shoal. We'll drop on over it probably. Yeah, we just wait there.
You mentioned something today about a lot of, there's a season up here for gigging, and there seems to be not as many fish as there once was, and there's probably a reason for that. Am I right on that?
We have a lot more people gigging. Everybody has better equipment. And the season's a lot longer now.
I'm kind of interested in in your equipment now. I know that you told me, I think today, that you get get the spear itself from the lumberyard, but where the gigs come from? Casey?
This particular gig is made in St. Louis now, I think. I haven't bought any like this. We do have some local blacksmiths that make the gigs. Most of them are forged. I think this is a stamped gig. It's stamped out of the spring steel. And they may forge the tips of it or something. They put these barbs on it to hold the fish on. They get the gigs from just about everywhere, but most of them are locally made.
You've been doing it, didn't you say, since you're 8 years old? Your dad was probably one of the greatest, they say.
Yeah, for about 30 years. Dad used to. Of course, there was more fish back then, too, but he could average about a fish a minute.
All right, now, let's talk about those suckers. I really don't know what they are, but they don't sound like they're good to eat to me.
Well, they're classified as rough fish, but if they're fixed right, they're really good to eat. Rivers with the muddy bottoms, I think they have a little muddy taste in them, from what I hear. The current river here is 100% spring fed, gravel bottom, and the fish have a really clean white meat in them.
But you say you got to score them. Now, what do you mean with that? I kind of know how you do a ham, but I don't know how you do a fish.
Well, it takes a razor-sharp pocket knife. The fish have little bones in them that's forked all the way through, like hair-sized bones. And you have to have a razor-sharp pocket knife and score the fish about every 1/8 of an inch or so. And you get the meal in it, and it hits that hot grease, and the bones just cook up to nothing.
Well, I hope you show me about that a little bit later on. And it takes a little bit to rig your boat. Now, tell me about your boat and how you rig it.
Well, we use halogen quartz lights on the front and a generator. It's a 2,500 watt generator. And then just a standard John boat and 25 horse motors, what I have. They run up to about 40 horse around here, but the lights are run off of the generator. They used to use batteries and propane, all kinds of lights, but just about now it's all gone to generator.
Now let's take you back about 10 years. Brian and Ronnie on a winter trip. Now we're talking about freezing temperatures. But they had a great night gigging. By the way, the home video by Brian Luster. back to the present, 10 years later.
That's really some hard water to gig in here, so way up, but they're pretty good at seeing them. I can't hardly see them in there.
We are late in the season. It starts in the middle of September and we're into October. Lots of pressure on the river early in the season. Everybody takes a lot of fish the first week. That's why I think that they're scarce this night. Now this is the spectator boat. Coming up, the reason we cut our gigging trip short. The rain is on its way.
That's the yellow sucker, hog sucker, yellow sucker.
All right.
All them yellow suckers.
See the square head? That's the hog sucker, and the flat head
Where's the hog sucker?
right here.
All right. Yeah.
What do you want? Put in one hole, way water.
That's scoring that thing. That's scoring. You can see that scoring there.
How's it taste?
Tastes good. It really does taste good. I'm not lying. Really does taste like catfish. Tastes like sucker. Good. Well, that's it for our show today. You noticed that you didn't see the old dinky bird trying to gig a fish. Well, I had tried off camera a couple of times, but it didn't really work well for me. Of course, if you've been watching this show for very long, you know I'm not a very good fisherman, even with a good rod and reel. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you, and we're going to see you again next week.
Our sports magazine show.